I honestly thought the worst thing that could happen at my garage party would be a noise complaint. But the moment she screamed, "I'm calling 911," my stomach dropped hard. Because she told them we were armed and dangerous. What she had no idea about was who was actually inside my garage and why that call would end up changing everything on our street. It started as one of those rare, perfect evenings where life feels normal again. My name is Ion, and I live in a quiet Chevy Chase neighborhood, the kind where lawns look like they're measured with rulers and even holiday lights have approved colors. I'm not exaggerating. The Chevy Chase newsletter once publicly shamed someone over a non-compliant welcome mat. I'm usually careful. I hide my trash cans, I trim my hedges on schedule, I even wave at the patrol guy like we're old friends. But that Friday, my younger brother Samir had just returned from out of town, and my cousin Bilal, basically the party planning engine of our family, said, "Bro, do it in the garage, low key. Just food, music, people you trust. Garage parties are sacred where I'm from. You're not trying to go wild, you're just trying to laugh too loud, eat too much, and pretend adulthood isn't constantly charging you late fees." So I cleaned. I cleared the garage like I was staging it for a home show. Cars rolled out, floors swept, 2 cheap LED strips hung up, folding chairs set, a big cooler placed right by the side door. I kept the main garage door halfway open for airflow, since it was warm and we were grilling. By 7:30, people started trickling in. And here's the detail that makes this whole thing feel unreal. Most of the guests weren't random coworkers or neighbors. Samir had invited his training friends. I didn't ask too many questions because Samir has that annoying younger sibling habit of being vague. He just said, "They're good people. They don't drink stupid. They'll help clean." Training friends sounded like gym guys. They were not gym guys. The first clue was a tall dude in a plain black tee and jeans who walked in like he was scanning the room without realizing it. He smiled, shook my hand, and said, "Thanks for having us, man." Then 2 more showed up with the same calm energy, friendly but alert in a way that made my brain whisper, "Why do they all stand like that?" Ball leaned in and muttered, "Why your brother's friends look like they could arrest sadness." I laughed, but yeah, I noticed it too. Still, the night was great. Music played, nothing crazy, just a playlist. The grills sizzled, someone brought samosas and wings, people joked, told stories, roasted Samir for the haircut he thought was fresh. And then she appeared, the Chevy Chase queen herself. Her real name is Linda, but everyone on our block calls her Karen because she earned it like a badge. She walks her dog with clipboard energy. If you park crooked, she photographs it like a crime scene. Once, she told my mom our curtains were too dark and aggressive. Curtains! I saw her shadow first, standing at the edge of my driveway like she'd stepped straight out of the rule book. No wave, no smile, just a hard stare at my half-open garage door like it personally offended her. I stepped out holding a paper plate. "Hey, Linda, everything okay?" She pointed at the garage like I was running a nightclub. "Do you have a permit for this gathering?" I blinked. "A permit?" She said, "Your garage door is open. You have people inside. Music. That's a violation of community standards." I stayed respectful. My mom always says, "Don't argue with people who enjoy arguing." I said, "It's just family and friends. We'll be done by 10. Her eyes slid past me straight into the garage. She spotted the cooler and her face tightened. "What's in that cooler?" "Drinks, ice, food." I felt ridiculous saying it. Then she did something that still makes my skin crawl. She stepped closer, craned her neck like she was counting heads, and said, "How many people are in there? This looks excessive." Behind me, someone laughed loudly mid-story. For some reason, that laugh made her angrier. She looked at me and said, "I'm going to need you to shut this down." I'm not confrontational, but something in me snapped. Not loudly, just quietly. I said, "I'm not shutting it down. We're not hurting anyone." Her lips tightened. "Then I'll handle it." She turned and marched toward the sidewalk, pulling her phone out like a weapon. Ball came outside, wiping his hands on a napkin. "That her again?" "Yep." He watched Linda speed walk away and muttered, "Bro, she's gonna call somebody." "Hotline, maybe?" I said. Ball shook his head. "Nah, she's doing the dramatic thing." I went back into the garage, trying to shake it off. Samir was laughing with his friends, and the tall guy who'd arrived first, Marcus, was telling a story about someone locking themselves out of their car while still holding their keys. Everyone was cracking up. I leaned towards Samir and whispered, "Who exactly are your training friends?" Samir grinned like he'd been waiting for that question. "Oh, most of them are cops." My brain froze for a full second. "What?" He nodded casually, like he'd just told me they were accountants. "Yeah, off duty, long week, they wanted somewhere chill." I looked around the garage again, and suddenly everything clicked. The posture, the calm, the way they casually clocked exits without making it obvious. "Samir," I hissed, "why didn't you tell me this?" He shrugged. "Would you have said no?" I opened my mouth, then closed it, because honestly, I probably would have panicked and overthought the whole thing. Before I could say anything else, Marcus glanced toward the open garage door. His smile faded just a little. He said quietly, "Someone outside is filming." My stomach dropped. Through the crack of the half-open garage door, I saw Linda across the street, phone held up, recording like she was documenting a hostage situation. Then she raised the phone closer to her face. Even from that distance, I could read her lips. "Yes, I need police." Inside my garage, now packed with off-duty police officers, everything went quiet in a way that felt unreal, like the air itself had just realized what was about to happen. Samir whispered, "She didn't." Marcus exhaled slowly. "She did." Then we heard it, the faint, rising wail of sirens getting closer, not one, more than one. I remember thinking, this is about to become the dumbest, scariest misunderstanding of my life, because the woman calling 911 thought she was reporting a threat. She had no idea who she'd just called them on. The sirens didn't rush in all at once. They hovered at the edge of hearing, like a warning instead of an arrival. Inside my garage, nobody panicked, but the energy flipped instantly. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Someone turned the music off without being told. Chairs scraped softly as people stood, not nervously, but deliberately. Marcus looked at Samir. "You didn't say she actually called 911. Samir's face had gone pale. "I thought she was just threatening it. She does that." Another guy, shorter, older, calm in a way that felt practiced, checked his watch and said, "Okay, phone's away, hands visible, let's not make this weird." That sentence alone made my heart race. I suddenly became very aware of how my harmless garage party probably looked from the outside. Open door, group of men, laughter suddenly cut off, a cooler near the entrance, and now silence. I stepped outside again because someone had to. Linda was standing halfway down the sidewalk, arms crossed, phone still up, filming like she was directing a documentary called Neighborhood Under Siege. I raised my hand slightly, not surrender, just peace. "Linda," I said, keeping my voice steady, "calling 911 is a bit much, don't you think?" She smiled, actually smiled. "I told them everything. About the gathering, about the alcohol, about the suspicious behavior." My chest tightened. "Suspicious how?" "You tell me," she snapped. "Why are there so many men in your garage? Why are they watching the street? And why did one of them shut the door when I walked by earlier?" "That's not—" "I never said armed," she interrupted, louder now. "I said I felt unsafe." That word, unsafe. She loved it. A neighbor 2 houses down peeked out from behind their curtains. Another opened their front door and froze when they saw Linda recording. The sirens grew louder. Linda tilted her phone so it pointed directly at my face. "Smile," she said. "This is for the SHAIVAL Alley group chat." Behind me, Marcus stepped just into the doorway, hands open, posture relaxed. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "everything here is fine." She spun on him like she'd been waiting for that moment. "Don't talk to me," she snapped. "I'm not dealing with you people. The police are on their way." Marcus nodded slowly. "Yes, we know." Something about his tone made her pause for a half-second. Then she doubled down. "I hope you're all ready," she said, "because when they get here, I'm telling them exactly what I saw." "What did you see?" I asked. She lifted her chin. "Men behaving suspiciously, possible weapons, an illegal gathering, and an uncooperative homeowner." She recited it like bullet points from a script. I wanted to scream, but instead something colder settled in, because she wasn't confused. She was enjoying this. The first police car turned onto our street, then another, then another. Red and blue lights washed over perfectly trimmed lawns and identical mailboxes. Linda's smile widened with every flash. "Oh, good," she said softly. "Back up." The cars pulled up fast, doors opening almost immediately. Officers stepped out, hands near their belts, eyes scanning. "Everyone inside the garage," one of them shouted. "Keep your hands where we can see them." Inside, every single person complied instantly. Hands up, no hesitation, no arguments. I'd never seen such clean compliance in my life. Linda snapped her head toward the garage. "See," she said loudly, "look how guilty they look." One officer approached her. "Ma'am, did you make the call?" "Yes," she said proudly. "I feared for my safety." He nodded. "Okay, we're going to sort this out." Another officer came toward me. "Sir, are you the homeowner?" "Yes." "What's going on tonight?" "Family and friends, small gathering." He glanced past me into the garage. Really looked this time. His eyes moved from face to face. Then something changed. Not panic, not confusion. Recognition. His posture shifted. "Marcus," he said slowly. Marcus lowered his hands just enough to nod. "Evening, Jake." Silence hit the street like a dropped glass. Jake blinked. "What are you doing here?" "Barbecue. Off duty." Another officer leaned in. "Wait, that's Louise, and hold on, is that Chen?" One by one, names started passing between officers. The tension didn't explode. It evaporated. Radios crackled as officers quietly updated dispatch. "Yeah, situation's under control. False alarm." Lyndon noticed something was wrong. "What's happening?" she demanded. "Why are you chatting?" Jake turned to her. "Ma'am, these individuals are law enforcement." "They what?" "Off-duty police officers," he repeated. Her phone dipped for the first time. "That's not possible," she said weakly. "They looked like what?" Jake asked. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The street was dead quiet now. Neighbors fully outside, phones raised, watching. Linda swallowed. "Well," she said, stiffly, lifting her phone again, "even so, this gathering still violates SHAIVAL Alley rules." Marcus stepped forward slightly, voice calm but firm. "Ma'am," he said, "you called 911 and claimed we were armed and dangerous." She laughed nervously. "I was being cautious." Jake's expression hardened. "That's not how emergency services work." Linda's eyes flicked between the officers, the neighbors, and the flashing lights. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked unsure. And that's when the senior officer arrived. He stepped out of the last car, surveyed the scene, and asked one simple question that drained all the color from Linda's face. "Who reported this, and why?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The way he stood, hands resting calmly on his belt, eyes moving slowly from the garage to the crowd of neighbors, made the entire street feel smaller. Linda straightened like she was about to give a presentation. "I did," she said quickly, "for safety reasons." He nodded once. "Okay, walk me through exactly what made you call 911. She gestured broadly. A large gathering, men loitering in a garage, alcohol, aggressive body language. I felt threatened. The officer glanced at Marcus. Anyone drinking? No, sir, Marcus replied evenly. We're all off duty, department policy. The officer turned back to Linda. You reported possible weapons. Yes, she said, defensive now. I didn't see them, but I assumed. You assumed? He repeated. She hesitated. Given the circumstances. The officer exhaled slowly. Ma'am, calling 911 based on assumptions is a serious issue. The word serious landed hard. Linda's confidence cracked just a little. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood, she insisted. That's my responsibility. I'm on the SHAIVAL Ali board. That's when the twist hit. Quiet, sharp, and devastating. The officer nodded again. We're aware. She blinked. Aware of what? Your history, he said evenly. This isn't the first call you've made. Her head snapped up. Excuse me? He pulled out a small notebook. False noise complaints, welfare checks requested with no cause, multiple reports flagged as exaggerated or unsubstantiated. Murmurs rippled through the neighbors. Linda's face went pale. I don't exaggerate, I document. The officer looked her straight in the eye. Ma'am, 3 months ago you reported a suspicious vehicle that belonged to a hospice nurse. 2 weeks ago you claimed a neighbor was possibly manufacturing drugs because of gardening supplies. Someone behind me whispered, Oh my God. Linda laughed, but it came out thin. So now I'm being punished for being vigilant? No, he said calmly. You're being questioned for misuse of emergency services. That's when everything clicked for me. This was never about noise, or safety, or SHAIVAL Ali rules. This was about control. Linda had spent years using authority she didn't actually have, weaponizing fear because it made people back down. Tonight, she thought she'd found another easy target. She hadn't expected witnesses, and she definitely hadn't expected badges. The officer turned to me. Sir, has she confronted you before? I nodded. Repeatedly. Any threats? She films people, posts in group chats, talks about getting the police involved. I have every right. Ma'am, please stop. That word please was the last kindness she got. He turned back to his team. I want this documented as a false emergency report. Linda's phone slipped from her fingers and hit the sidewalk. No, you can't do that. I can, the officer said, and I am. Neighbors were openly staring now, some recording, some shaking their heads. One woman, who Linda had once fined over her mailbox color, muttered, About time. Linda's shoulders slumped. She tried one final move. What about the SHAIVAL Ali violations? The officer looked genuinely confused. What violations? The gathering, she said weakly. The garage door? He glanced at me. City ordinance allows private gatherings. SHAIVAL Ali issues are civil matters, not 911 calls. Silence. Then he added, and abusing emergency services can result in fines, or worse. Linda swallowed hard. She picked up her phone, hands trembling, and for the first time ever, she turned the camera off. The officers cleared out slowly. Handshakes were exchanged. A few jokes cracked. The street returned to normal, but something fundamental had shifted. Before leaving, the senior officer pulled me aside. File a complaint, he said quietly. Tonight helps your case. I nodded. Linda didn't say another word. She walked back to her house without filming, without lecturing, without looking at anyone. The garage party resumed, but softer, calmer. At the end of the night, Marcus raised a soda can and said, "To the quietest police call ever." We laughed. But the real payoff came weeks later. Linda resigned from the SHAIVAL Ali board. It turns out, once people stopped being afraid, they started talking. And the woman who loved calling 911 finally learned what happens when everyone sees the truth at the same time. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every single subscription motivates me to bring you even more exciting and dramatic Shavel Elise stories. And don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. I'll see you in the next story, where justice gets even more satisfying.